Right, we now have to figure out how to load our camera. Cameras are hopefully light proof, but we need to check if they are fully light proof. Do not open the photographic paper unless you're in only red light, because the white light will affect the paper, so that needs to stay sealed. So we're going to imagine that this is a piece of photographic paper and it's got the shiny side will be this side, and this is the side that we need to make sure fits the camera. If you go to the packet and there's not a smaller piece, you'll need to cut your own. The large paper is 10 by 8. If it's a fully sized can, you can fit a 5 by 7 piece of paper in. And if you've trimmed a good bit off your can, you won't. So you need to get a quarter of a 10 by 8. Here I've measured off that this is going to be 5 centimeters, so half of the 10, and this is 4 centimeters. So we'll take the 4 centimeter mark first and slice our page landscape way, and then we'll go 5 centimeters, so our 10 by 8 is now quartered. So they're roughly all the same size. There should be some made up, but if not, now you know how to do it. So that's our piece of paper. To check if it's light proof, because remember the word camera is dark chamber, we need to make sure that the only way the light can get in is through our lens, okay, through the pinhole in your camera. Again, while the paper is out, we're in dark conditions, but for demonstration and video purpose we need to leave the light on. Your sheet needs to be labelled if it's going to be top or bottom. You can just put a tear in the top if you want, or you can just on the back of it write top. Because there's large groups, you need to make sure you put your initials on, or you can put your name. So when it goes through the chemistry and it's at the end and it's washed, then it works. So if we pay attention, put your finger always on the lens when you're loading your camera. Bend it so that the shiny side is curved in, and that's what's going to be opposite your finger. So your finger is here, the shiny side is in there, and when we're taking a photograph, we're not going to for this, but when we take a photograph, the light will be coming through here onto the paper. And then lid down. Make sure you push it all the way down to the bottom, that it doesn't slip in the middle of the photograph being taken. Again, this is in dark, red, or safe light conditions. You're now going to go outside, or if your teacher tells you, say you stay in the classroom, and just leave it somewhere for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, just leave it, get on with some of your write-up work, bring it back to the dark room, again in safe light, and you'll take it out. The red tray will always be the developer, and you'll develop that. If anything comes up on that piece of paper, then you're going to have issues with your camera. If you have got a darkened area, a black or grey area here, turn over your camera, or turn over your sheet of paper, and it's the top. So the top is what's letting light in. So this needs to be looked at. You might need to put another layer of card up here. You might need to secure and make sure there's no light coming in the corners, but there's something letting light in the top. If it's the bottom is fobbing, some aluminium cans will let light through on the base. So maybe just put a black tape on the outside. Once you've done that, and you've got to go ahead that after 3 minutes in the developer, nothing happens, it stays white. Bin your piece of paper by carrying it to the bin with a tray underneath. Just bin it, it's done. And then you'll take a photograph. So again, loading with the shiny side, or the emulsion side, opposite your finger, and your finger's on the lens, you load up your camera. For some of you, with 5 by 7 pieces of paper, which is a bigger, you load it landscape, and it'll pretty much wrap all the way around the camera apart from where the lens is. Again, shiny side, making sure you have your initials on the back. Please make sure you have initials on the back, because it's very difficult to understand whose photographs are whose when we're looking at them. These are going to be very abstract, they're going to be warped because it's projecting onto a curved surface. When you are photographing outside, you or inside. There's going to be a variety of things happening in your class. You should be no further than that. Right? So no further than that away from what you're photographing. So here's my object that I've got from outside, and I'm going to photograph it there. You can, if you can keep it perfectly still, leave it down, okay, to get a different angle, but preferably here. And the easiest way to remember is, whatever side the flap on your lens is, that's the hand that holds the camera, because the other one will open it up. When you're outside and you're counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4, right, you'll have to gauge. Dark conditions, you need 30 Mississippis. Bright, shining conditions, you need 15 Mississippis. What you're photographing should have direct light on it, if possible. It shouldn't be in the shade. It should have lots of contrast around it. So here we've got quite a lot of contrast between the background and the subject. Preferably having the light shining down, so it's coming from behind you as a photographer, so it's shining down onto it. The more light that shines on your subject, the better it is, because it's going to bounce back. If it is dark conditions, you can use some flash. Right? You will be, I'll be back in a second in the video, you'll be given flashes in your class. Here's where you're not prepared. And the flash unit, again photographing close to your subject, the flash unit will be here, or it'll trigger it as close to it as possible. And you'll set it to maximum, so loads of different flashes, they've all got different settings. The ones you're predominantly going to use will have an M setting for manual, and you'll scale it up to the largest scale, and you will trigger it off. So it's not going to go off now, but it'll trigger it. For those, you don't need long exposures. You could do 2 maximum flashes, and that should highlight the subject and send enough light back into the camera. While you're taking photographs of long exposures or with the flashes, take your lens off completely, or your shutter off completely, if you can. So take it off completely, otherwise it could blow back onto it. And when you finish your photograph, just stick it back on. Peel it off fully. So, remember, close proximity to what you're photographing. If you're using flash, 2 fully powered flashes with the camera kept perfectly still. And please pick subjects that are perfectly still, okay, as well. And make sure you carry your lid, your hand on top of the lid when you're carrying it, so it doesn't fall off as you walk back upstairs. Please don't be waiting outside for other people to come in. Alright, if you've taken your photograph, just come back into class or into the darkroom and start developing. Otherwise it might leak and ruin your image. Okay, thank you.